headlines from this hour on VTV News. National Assembly discusses socio-economic situation. And Ho Chi Minh City to REIGNITE's BT project. In our war news, efforts continue to contain conflict in Gaza.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi. You're watching VTV News. On Tuesday morning, the National Assembly discussed the results of the socio-economic development in 2023 and the plan for 2024. At the meeting, many deputies gave comments on tax reductions, supporting businesses with preferential capitals, and combating internet fraud. More to follow.
Many deputies took the time to recognize the efforts of the government and the Prime Minister in managing the economy, as Vietnam has achieved a set of development goals in many important fields.
I also agree with the assessments of the government and the appraisal report of the Finance and Budget Committee. Despite existing challenges and the impact of the world economic situation, our country still achieved more than 5% growth and reached the target of reducing inflation to 3.5%. That's a huge achievement for Vietnam.
Agreeing with the government's solutions, deputies also proposed to reduce taxes, support interest rates, and create conditions for businesses to access preferential capital.
Currently, real estate loan funds have reached their repayment period. So, the state bank also needs specific solutions to ensure macroeconomic balance. I requested that the government give more clarity on the solution.
Many deputies proposed to speed up the disbursement of public investment capital, especially key projects and 3 national target programs. Others suggested ideas to prevent and combat all types of crime.
Internet fraud is very sophisticated and challenging for us, and how we handle cybercrime. We receive directions, but not solutions.
Guidelines related to personal identification are needed, especially the registration of accounts and credit management. There must be ways to deal with institutions and criminals using these accounts. We have proposed this issue to many competent agencies.
Deputies also discussed the government's report on the development of Da Nang City, as well as review the system of legal documents according to the provisions of resolution on the 5th session of the 15th National Assembly.
On Tuesday afternoon, the National Assembly discussed the draft law on management and protections of defense works and military zones. More to follow.
Determining the scope of prohibited area zones has created debate when discussing the draft law on management and protection of defense works and military zones.
In international practice, the airspace that countries use for civil aircraft from the sea surface to the air is from 10 to 12 kilometers. For military aircraft, it is up to 21 kilometers. However, the International Air Transport Association believes that the space borders of countries can be up to 100 kilometers, because over 100 kilometers belongs to outer space and most countries in the world use it for space research. If we limit it as stated in the draft law, there will be problems with the legal basis of these claims.
The limit of aerial range of military defense structures must be carefully considered, and if we establish an entire strictly protected area up to such an unrestricted height, it will seriously affect the operation of commercial flights. Then the provisions of the draft law limiting the height to 5 kilometers are reasonable.
It's not easy to decide reasonable aerial heights. For example, if we deploy a satellite, we still have to buy an orbital ring in the sky. Not everyone can just put a satellite in the air. We come up with the restricted height so that we can charge money for commercial flights that enter our airspace. Every day there are 1,000 flights from countries around the world. flying over us, and we earn money. And we can manage this very well.
On the same day, the National Assembly voted to approve a list of 44 people receiving votes of confidence. There are 5 people elected and approved in 2023 who will not receive a vote of confidence, including State President Võ Văn Thưởng, Deputy Prime Ministers Trần Hồng Hà, Trần Lưu Quang, Minister of Natural Resources and Environment Đặng Quốc Khánh, and Chairman of the National Assembly's Finance and Budget Committee Lê Quang Mạnh.
State President Võ Văn Thưởng received Senior Lieutenant General Roberto Lega Sotolongo, Chief of the General Staff and Deputy Minister of the Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces, who is on a working visit to Vietnam in Hanoi on Tuesday.
The Vietnamese state president described the visit as a vivid demonstration of the close-knit and faithful relations between the two countries and the two militaries. As the global situation remains complex, bilateral defense cooperation is of importance, he noted, adding that the Vietnamese party and state always provide the best possible conditions for the Vietnamese ministry to coordinate, share opinions, and cooperate with its Cuban counterpart in the areas matching their capabilities and demand. The state president said Vietnam always supports the Cuban people's just struggle and objects to the embargo and sanctions against the Caribbean nation. The Cuban Chief of General Staff expressed his hope that Vietnam will support Cuba to develop its military medical sector and defense fields. Earlier, General Phan Van Giang, Defense Minister General Lương Cường, Director of the General Department of Political Affairs of the Vietnam People's Army, and Senior Lieutenant General Nguyễn Tân Cương, Chief of the General Staff of the Vietnam People's Army, had meetings with the Cuban Chief of the General Staff. The two sides agreed to increase exchanges at all levels, share experience, and promote cooperation in their parties and political work in the military.
Meeting with Pauline Themis, UN Resident Coordinator for Vietnam and UN organizations in Vietnam on Tuesday on the occasions of the 78th anniversary of the UN, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính affirmed that Vietnam appreciates the UN's support for the country. He said that Vietnam pledges to responsibly participate in the UN's agenda, actively contributes initiative, and join hands with the UN to solve major global issues. The Prime Minister hoped that UN organizations in Vietnam will continue to provide advice on policies and support the country in institutional and national governance capacity improvement, human resources training, and financial resource mobilizing. The UN Resident Coordinator for Vietnam expressed her impressions of Vietnam's miraculous efforts in responding to COVID-19 and its achievements in socio-economic recovery and development. She spoke highly of Vietnam's positive and responsible contributions to the common work of the United Nations.
We are commemorating this year's...
The manufacturing industry in Vietnam has seen encouraging developments in trade remedies investigations conducted by major export markets. These positive outcomes include Thailand's decision to terminate the anti-dumping duty currently imposed on certain hot dip plated products from Vietnam, as well as the U.S. Department of Commerce stating that steel pipe products imported from Vietnam do not evade anti-dumping measures. These fruitful results can be attributed to the proactive response of businesses supported by authorities, which play a crucial role in helping Vietnamese companies maintain existing markets and expand into new ones.
The Federal Register, the daily journal of the U.S. government, has recently published the preliminary results of the 19th Anti-Dumping Duty Administrative Review conducted by the U.S. Department of Commerce on Vietnam's frozen trough fish fillets exported to the country. According to the publication, the preliminary anti-dumping taxes on the products of 2 mandatory respondents amount to 14 cents per kilogram.
Vietnamese enterprises, who are defendants in this lawsuit, have diligently collected all the data requested by the U.S. Department of Commerce. After 120 days of investigation, the official results have shown positive outcomes for Vietnamese products.
The Ministry of Industry and Trade has monitored more than 170 products and has also created an early warning list of products that may be subject to trade remedies investigations. Industries can refer to this list to avoid potential legal action.
Out of the 170 monitored products, we have confirmed that approximately 17 products exported to the United States are at risk of being investigated for trade remedies. With this risk assessment in mind, businesses should also consider the need to balance their production and business strategies.
The United States has initiated 59 trade remedies investigations involving Vietnamese products. It is expected that the number of cases will continue to rise in the future, as this is a means of safeguarding their domestic production. The Vietnamese commercial counselor in the U.S. has stated that, as a result of numerous lawsuits, major Vietnamese exporters have gained familiarity with the procedures and requirements of the investigating agency. Additionally, they have made systematic investments in the accounting and legal consulting sectors.
The United States has specific requirements, so businesses should ensure self-protection by equipping themselves with knowledge about trade remedies.
As Vietnam engages in more free trade agreements and expands its market reach, it is crucial to strengthen proactive measures in dealing with trade remedies lawsuits.
Resolution 98 of the National Assembly has granted the Ho Chi Minh City authorities to apply Build Operate Transfers or BOT contracts to existing highway projects and carry out investment projects under Build Transfer or BT contracts with money from the city budget. If applied for quickly, the BT investment form can help redeploy large projects that have been delayed for years in Ho Chi Minh City.
With the Resolution 98 coming into effect, multiple BT investment projects in Ho Chi Minh City that have been delayed can get additional capital from the city budget. This will solve a lot of problems as these projects have long been financial burdens to businesses and the government and wasting social resources.
Bidding must be held to find the right investors for these BT projects. Land auctioning must be an indispensable part of the bidding process because BT projects are essentially exchanging land for infrastructure.
In the current context where public investment is promoted, BT projects can facilitate the activities of the private sector, which faces a lot of difficulties at the moment.
Currently, the City Department of Transport is working to review and propose about 10 BT projects to invite investors from the private sector. And so, besides BOT, we have more resources from society through this investment form to accelerate the completion of the city's transportation system.
In mid-September 2023, a road running parallel to the Ho Chi Minh City, Long Phaing, Cho Jay Expressway was open to traffic. This is a rare BT project in Ho Chi Minh City that was reignited. This highway project reduces traffic congestion in the area.
Coming up next on VTV News, changes needed to maintain worker interests in social insurance. ASO Airport cleared from dioxins contamination. The rainy season in the Central Highlands typically extended from May to November. During this time, localities are preparing to address landslides that may occur due to heavy rains. Safety measures have been strengthened to assist local residents in minimizing the risk of landslides. Our report comes from Đà Lạt City, Lâm Đồng Province.
In 2021, a deadly landslide occurred in Khai Sang Street due to torrential rains. To mitigate the risk of landslides during the rainy season, authorities have taken measures to address this issue. They have mandated the construction of steep reinforced embankments in areas prone to landslides. Additionally, each household is required to install a sensor column.
If something unusual happens, the sensor column emits alarm signals. We now feel more secure.
With over 160 landslide sites and areas prone to landslides, task forces have been deployed to monitor vulnerable locations and raise public awareness about the risks associated with landslides.
We have raised people's awareness of the risk of landslides, especially those living in landslide-prone areas. In addition, we have strengthened the monitoring, control, and mapping of landslides.
According to experts, the authorities in Lâm Đồng should enhance the quality of construction projects by implementing stricter regulations. The authorities are currently planning to create a landslide susceptibility map for the area.
We need to reassess the situation in areas prone to landslides. The assessment we conducted in these areas was unsuccessful, so now we require a more detailed map.
Developing a landslide susceptibility map is a significant challenge not only for Lâm Đồng province, but also for many other mountainous provinces. It involves high labor costs and requires qualified experts.
Droughts and saltwater intrusions in the Mekong Delta are likely to arrive a month earlier than normal and be more severe than in the past. Localities in the Mekong Delta have built a dam systems to prepare, completing the irrigation work to prevent salinity and store fresh water, protecting production areas during the dry season.
At Ben Char Province, the dam project to respond to drought and salinity started many months ago. Accordingly, communes and towns proactively plan to store water to safely protect production areas.
A few years ago, plants and flowers would die because of salinity intrusion. Now, I can water 1 hectare of growing area with this pump. This helped plants to withstand those dry months.
We built dams and water storage areas. Each household also prepared their own salinity prevention system and water storage. Most farms have completed their own water network.
In Tianjiang, the locality has been severely affected by saltwater intrusion. In the dry season of 2020, more than 5,300 hectares of fruit gardens were damaged. Now, people are more reassured as the new dike system prevents salinity and helps to store fresh water.
Thanks to the investment in 7 canals, durian growers can prevent salinity intrusion. Crops aren't damaged if we use this system.
In case salt water rises rapidly, we will construct a valve beam to reinforce the steel dam to prevent saltwater intrusion.
For the $34.4 million project to build a saltwater prevention sluice gate system in Tianjiang province, all 6 sluice gates were completed in Phase 1. The project is ready to be put into operation, ensuring water safety to serve the production activities.
Vietnam's Social Security on Tuesday held a dialogue on social insurance and health insurance policies with 130 Japanese invested enterprises operating in the north of Vietnam. The dialogue provided an opportunity for Japanese businesses to better grasp Vietnam's legal regulations on social security, social insurance, and health insurance. It's also a venue for Japanese investors to voice their opinions to help improve policies on social insurance and, as a result, facilitating stable business, long-term investment, and workers' rights in Vietnam. Over 2,100 Japanese firms in Vietnam with 547,000 employees participate in social insurance. Social insurance premiums paid by Japanese enterprises accounts for over 13% of the total collection from FDI enterprises in Vietnam. Reducing the minimum period of social insurance payments to enjoy pension is, in the long term, a solution to improve fairness as well as increase coverage and benefits of social insurance policies. However, the current pensions level is not enough to prevent workers from requesting lump sum withdrawals. More to follow.
Losing her job when she was nearly 50 years old, this woman decided to stay in Ho Chi Minh City for one more year. She decided to use the severance allowance to continue paying social insurance.
When I get the severance allowance, I'll pay for social insurance contributions to qualify for a pension once I meet the requirements.
This is the payroll of a labor supply company. The money paid for social insurance is only 50% of the actual salary. The payment level does not truly reflect the employee's actual income.
You can't convince workers to opt for high pension if you don't allow them to pay more social insurance contribution. Everyone hopes to get pension that is equal to the minimum standard of living.
The Ho Chi Minh City National Assembly delegation recommends that workers and organizations representing workers' rights pay attention to labor agreements with businesses.
The law on social insurance needs to be amended so that workers feel the need to pay voluntary social insurance to get more pension in the future.
The 15th Tenure National Assembly's 6th session will consider the draft law on social insurance, amended. Thus, opinions from practice reflect the thoughts and aspirations of employees and employers, will also be the basis for not only solving immediate problems but also planning long-term policies. Basis.
The Chemical Command under the Ministry of Defense on Tuesday announced the completion of dioxin cleanup at A So Airport in A Le District, the central province of Thừa Thiên Huế. The project on the work was approved by the Ministry of Defense in March 2020 at a cost of $3 million from the state budget. The project covered mine clearance on an area of more than 9 hectares and collections and treatment of dioxin-contaminated soil. The Chemical Command has planted trees and handed over the clear land to the locality. Coming up next in our world news, efforts continue to contain conflict in Gaza. And Germany to step up fight against irregular immigration. The United Nations Security Council held a meeting on Tuesday to try to have a common voice on the Hamas-Israel conflict. It is expected that on Thursday, the United Nations General Assembly will meet to discuss the current situations. In a positive development, Hamas released 2 more hostages on Monday. According to a Hamas-affiliated channel, the 2 were let go for humanitarian reasons after mediation by Qatar and Egypt. There are 2 elderly women currently being treated at a hospital in Tel Aviv. The announcement of the hostage release comes 3 days after the release of 2 Americans who had been held captive by Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
It's okay, let's go. It's okay, let's go.
In a meeting on Monday in Berlin, Germany, Chancellor Olaf Scholz stressed the necessity of carrying out large-scale deportation of individuals who lack the legal right to stay in Germany. He said going forward, Germany will be differentiating even more precisely who was coming to the country and who was allowed to stay. He also stressed the need to press ahead with the digitalization of the Immigration Office, with asylum applications and initial interviews taking place in the initial reception facility. The German Chancellor also noted the importance of fulfilling Germany's obligations to offer asylum to those in genuine need, while also attracting skilled immigrants to strengthen the country's aging workforce. The International Monetary Organization (IMF) has adjusted its forecast and lowered the growth rate of South Korea in 2023. The country is currently facing many pressures due to low demand, high credit debt, and aging population. It is difficult for South Korea to return to the top 10 largest economy this year. Also, according to the IMF, Japan may have to cede the positions of the world's 3rd largest economy to Germany, as its nominal GDP expected to fall 0.2% year-on-year to $4.23 trillion in 2023. The yen's widely watched depreciation underpins Japan's projected slide in position. On Monday, the currency weakened beyond 150 yen against the US dollar for the second time this year, sparking discussions for interventions in what has been an ongoing trend in 2023. Teams from around the world left Darwin on Sunday to race their solar-powered electric car across Australia in the 2023 Bridgestone World Solar Challenge. The event runs until next Sunday, with teams vying to compete the track in the fastest time.
The 3,000-kilometer route Bridgestone World Solar Challenge is one of the world's most prestigious solar car races, created to foster development of experimental, solar-powered vehicles. Most entries are from university teams, but major car brands are increasingly involved, using the event as an extreme test bed for near-future technologies in electric vehicles.
Back in '87, I suppose this event was seen as the Jetsons. It was far away from anybody's belief that we're ever going to be driving around in electric cars. Can you imagine? But of course we're on that journey of electrification, and we're there. We're a little bit behind here in Australia, but we're on the journey and catching up the rest of the world. So yeah, absolutely it's relevant. Solar cars, well, maybe that's the next step.
The teams will face some extreme conditions, with temperatures of over 40 degrees Celsius, as well as camping out overnight in a region which is home to some of the world's deadliest snakes. Teams will also have to navigate brutal crosswinds that blow across the Great Victoria Desert in far north-South Australia.
So we don't have any air conditioning in our car, so the estimate is that our car is roughly 10 degrees warmer than the outside air temperature, which puts the inside of the car about 50 degrees C. Obviously it's very warm. We have an air vent that keeps you cool, but you're so focused on what you're doing that you don't really notice the heat until you're out of it again.
According to event organizers, Solar Challenge alumni include Google founder Larry Page and Tesla co-founder J.B. Straubel.
And now let's continue with the weather forecast. And that's it for this hour in VTV News. To rewatch the program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download our mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.